Hello and welcome to FLW TV. My name is Ben Wignall and this is the debate show. Today we will be looking at how Lee Johnson is doing at Sunderland this season and if he's the man to take the Black Cats back to the Championship. Joining me today are FLW writers Ned Holmes and Chris Thorpe. Ned, how you doing?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Ben. It's sort of a bit of a quiet one, bit of a weird one with it being the international break, and I saw your tweet about, as bad as your side and as bad as my side, Bristol City are doing. I'm desperately missing it already.
Yeah, we've got some internationals to look forward to, and of course some League One and League Two action later on this week. Still no Championship football for a good week and a half. Chris, what about you? You do good?
Yeah, not too bad. Unfortunately for me, my team has played twice over this international period, and we've lost. Well, no, sorry, we lost on midweek against Sutton in the Papa John's Trophy, but won in the FA Cup. So I've had a bit of both, you would say. But yeah, looking forward to the return of the league in, I think, what is it, just over a week's time now, 20th of November. So yeah, looking forward to getting back to the bread and butter of it, mate.
Lovely stuff. Now, seeing as though this is about Sunderland, any fans of the club watching, please feel free to, drop a comment on this topic on Facebook or YouTube, and we will include it in this stream. If you're not a Sunderland fan and perhaps a fan of another League One club and have seen the Black Cats in action this season, let us know what you have thought of them and what you think may happen to them for the rest of the season. With that being said, let's get straight into it. Probably to start off with what the picture looks like right now for Sunderland because of international breaks and some clubs not playing in those periods. They're one of a few teams on 15 games played as opposed to 16. In those 15 matches, they've racked up 9 wins, 1 draw and 5 losses, seeing themselves 5 points behind the top two of Wigan and Plymouth with a game in hand. Looking at the first 9 games for Sunderland, Chris, they won 7 of them. I imagine, Sunderland fans were probably on cloud 9 at that start, probably having early dreams of returning to the second tier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, they sort of go into every season that they've been in League One really as one of the favourites because of the size and the history of the club. And yeah, they started brilliantly and everyone was looking at them and saying, oh, maybe this will finally be their year. And then obviously had a sort of a rough patch recently, but at the same time, I'd argue that, every team's got to go through that at some stage. So yeah, when you look at it as a whole, they've started pretty well, and with that game in hand, they could easily make up the gap.
Yeah, that was the start of the season. When they won 7, I think they only lost 1. I think that was against Burton away. The 6 matches though, they've been nothing short of up and down either side of 2 away wins over Gillingham and Crewe. They've been heavy defeats away from home. To Portsmouth, Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday, and then there was a home loss to Charlton as well with the new manager bounce with Johnny Jackson. The teams you've lost to, Ned, are ones that everyone would be expected to be up there with Sunderland, challenging for promotion at the end of the season. Is the results, the heavy ones, so, your Portsmouths and your Rotherhams, is that a bad sign, when they're getting put away by teams very convincingly, ones that you expect them to be up there at the end of the season?
To be honest, there's no doubt the recent forms are obviously a concern, and especially, as you say, losing to the teams around them and surrendering points to direct rivals in the promotion race. But I'm not sure for a lot of us who have been watching Lee Johnson teams for years now, it should be too much of a surprise. Obviously he's often made a bit of a joke, the Streaky Johnson thing, but there's no doubt that, that is, it seems to be part of his management styles are these long winning and losing runs. And, there's always talk that it can, he can become quite a frustrated figure in the dressing room during these long runs. And that's obviously played a part to it. They're in the midst of one of them now, but I do feel, if they can get out of it without being too far back from the top 2 or the top 6, then they should be well set because, looking at the quality of their side and looking at the way they started, they should be able to put another winning run together. And I think there's 2 ways to look at it with the defeats to the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham and Portsmouth. In one way that you're right, they've been put away by sort of direct rivals in frustrating ways, but equally, any team would consider those the harder games in League One. I think it'd be more frustrating if they were losing the easier games with games against Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham, Portsmouth still to come. If they can come out of this positively, then they can look ahead to I guess having already played some of the toughest teams in the division.
Yeah, I think they have put away, a few of the, lower ranked teams, the one you're expecting to be, Gillingham and Crewe recently. They were both, solid away wins, and they beat championship teams as well in the cup, just turning our attentions to those cup competitions briefly. They've had a very good run in the Carabao Cup, getting to the quarterfinals where they're going to meet Arsenal next month. But the FA Cup run ended at the first hurdle this past weekend against Mansfield, who of League Two. Obviously, Chris, when it's all said and done, the league's more important. It's more important than anything. But do you think, that loss against Mansfield and the manner of it, where they didn't really show up, will it have done Lee Johnson no favours with the board? It certainly hurt the fans on social media looking on Saturday. Obviously, another cup run would have maybe bred a bit more confidence, but they're out of that, and they've got to focus on the league, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. It's a tough one. I don't know how much Sunderland are going to prioritise the FA Cup. I mean, realistically, no offence to Sunderland fans, but you're not going to win it. Let's face it. It's hard for any team in the lower leagues to win the competition, let alone get far in it. At the same time, watching that game and watching the bits that I did see of it, they had a lot of chances again, and Mansfield just sort of nicked a goal against the run of play. So it's the same sort of story for them in recent games. They've had quite a few chances, but they're not necessarily taking them, and then obviously shipping quite a few in at the other end. But I do think the league is their priority, so I'm not sure they'll read too much into that. Obviously, for Johnson's sake, could have really done with a victory. But again, they're still in the Carabao Cup, which is probably something they didn't expect. And I'm sure they'll be going into that Arsenal game looking to win that as well. I'm pretty sure they're still in the Papa John's Trophy also, which they obviously won last season. So I'm sure they'll be looking to defend that. Johnson's got a really good history in that competition. So sometimes cups are a sort of distraction, but, considering how well they're doing in the two they're still in, then, they should just go for both if they can.
Yeah, looking at Johnson again specifically, his tactics this season, he's exclusively used a 4-2-3-1 formation. I think, it's been his go-to over the years. And at times last season, he went 4-4-2 when he had Charlie White at his disposal, playing him with Ross Stewart when he could. And it seemed to work, but he's obviously figured the players he's got now, they can play this 4-2-3-1. And he doesn't really, on the outside looking in, seem to have like a plan B. They're on a run of 4 straight losses now. If you throw in, the Mansfield game from Saturday, Ned, do you think it's now time to, perhaps make some tactical alterations, or do you think, with the squad Johnson does have at his disposal, do you think he should, stick with this system he's got and, the hope that things do work out in the end?
I think, a change in system is really necessary at the moment, if not just to try and get them out of their current sort of funk, as much to show as a message to fans that that he's not necessarily that he's listening, but just to show that positivity of trying to change things rather than just sort of flogging a dead horse, as it were. I think it's really interesting with Johnson. It seems to be sticking so much to this 4-2-3-1 and favouring a lot of players. When at Bristol City, for example, it was known as a sort of Johnson tombola, because you never knew what sort of lineup you were going to get. You never. It was always as if he didn't know his best 11. That doesn't seem to be an issue for him now, which is a good thing. But to be honest, I'd love to see him change to a sort of a 3-5-2 sort of formation. Putting someone like Nathan Broadhead, maybe Aidan McGeady, Aidan O'Brien, someone like that up with Ross Stewart. A midfield three that combines sort of Dan Neil's creativity, Luke O'Nien, and Corey Evans to sort of control things a bit better in the middle of the park and shore up that back line, which, Tom Flanagan obviously had a strong start to the season. He's fallen off a cliff a bit. Callum O'Doyle looks an impressive youngster, but, again, he's only 18 and in League One, this is probably the first time in senior football he's had to ever go through something like this, a player like Doyle. And they've got that West Ham loanee Frederick Alves, who I'd like to see come in, but again, that would be a really young back two. So a move to a sort of a 3-5-2 Winchester, I think, would work really well as a wing back. I think that's something that they really could look to do moving forward, just to change things up. And as Chris said, I guess it's more bodies alongside Ross Stewart in the box first of all, to take those chances and also shore things up to not give away as many at the back.
Yeah, it doesn't have to just be tactical alterations. I think one thing Sunderland fans have always been proud of is wanting youngsters to come through the academy and into the first team. At the minute you've got Dan Neil and Elliot Embleton in there right now, and the current set of under 23 players are playing in the Premier League of that age group, and there's been a few mixed results there, but there seems to be a few talents on the fringes of the first team. I think Will Harris in particular, he's got 9 goals in 7 appearances for the under 23s. The likes of Stephen Wern and Harrison Sauna are on the bench against Gillingham. I think Harris actually came on in that game very late on. Chris, if the results do keep on, kind of spiraling the way they are, do you think it's time for Johnson to maybe look towards that under 23s team to, give a few players like Harris, who's in banging form for that side, a chance in the first team?
I mean, he's already shown during his reign that he is willing to give young players a chance. I'm just not sure if doing it in the league would be the best course of action. I think if you put them in important games where you need to get a result and they don't perform well, then immediately fans can get a bad sort of opinion of them, and perhaps the manager will get a bad sense of opinion of them as well. So I'd say the longer they stay in the Papa John's Trophy, I'd use them in those games. I just wouldn't use them in the league. I think it's too much of a risk. With January coming up, you want to be looking to potentially get some experience in there in the key areas of the pitch, whether that's in defence or up front. Fair enough, Dan Neil, he's proved that he can operate at League One level regularly. But the others, I'm just not sure, especially after recent results. I think it could backfire. So probably best to leave those guys for the trophy games, in my opinion.
Ned, what about you? You're a Bristol City fan. You've seen Johnson in action firsthand. Did he tend to trust the youngsters at Bristol City, or did he go with more experience? We have seen Neil and Embleton come through this season, but last season he did tend to favour the experience until he could mould the squad in the way he wanted this summer.
Yeah, and certainly at Bristol City, he deserves credit for the development of players like Bobby Reid, like Joe Bryan, Josh Brownhill. Bristol City's the club chiefs have made no secret that their tactic is to buy cheap young players, develop them, bring them through, and Johnson was excellent in that. If you can certainly criticise that he never made that step to be a proper playoff team under Johnson, but certainly that side, and I think I understand fans' frustration and that they think chuck these fresh players in, but as Chris said, Elliot Embleton, Dan Neil already in the squad, Torben Hoffman's 22, Dejako's 20, I think, Dennis Serkin and Callum Doyle, I think, are both teenagers. It's not like Johnson isn't trusting youth at the moment, and I'm the same as Chris. There's so much quality in that squad. I'm not sure that what they've got in the under 23s really is the answer right now. Perhaps Will Harris is someone that could be sort of blended in more, given he's someone that scored a lot of goals and Sunderland could do with someone taking a few more chances. But as I said previously, I think Freddie Alves is someone I'd like to be given a chance. He's sort of youngish centre-back from West Ham.
Don't forget, Sunderland fans, please do comment on your thoughts on Johnson, if he is the man to get Sunderland up this season. Now let's quickly just look at Sunderland's next 6 fixtures, which will take them from the end of the international break up to their quarter-final Carabao Cup clash with Arsenal in December. There's home matches against Ipswich, Morecambe and Plymouth Argyle coming up, and then away fixtures at Shrewsbury, Cambridge and Ipswich. They're playing the Tractor Boys twice in the space of 4 weeks, which I thought was pretty bizarre before Christmas. I guess there's a mixed bag there of matches, and I think some you'd expect them to win convincingly with their own form, and then you've got the likes of Plymouth who are firing on all cylinders, and a double header against Ipswich. You never quite know what's going to happen with them. A strong squad, but very inconsistent right now. Ned, what are you expecting from those fixtures for Sunderland?
I mean, it's such a tough one to call, really. The downward trajectory they're on at the moment, you'd imagine with that, the way Johnson often is, things are probably going to get worse before they get better for Sunderland. But equally, as Chris said, it's not like they haven't created chances in the games that they've lost, and you know, if they come up against Ipswich, who we know can be inconsistent, and manage to get a result there, then they can feel pretty confident going away to teams like Shrewsbury and Cambridge. You know, Morecambe made a strong start, but you know that they are a newly promoted club. So I do think it's a run of fixtures that if it starts well, that could be exactly what they need to sort of bounce back. But equally, another heavy defeat to Ipswich, and then sort of, you know, games away from home, and then playing top of the league Plymouth and Ipswich again. That could also be, you know, we could be looking at very few points there as well. So it's really going to be how quickly and whether Lee Johnson can get his team out of this bad run, I think.
Yeah, I think with League One and League Two, especially we've seen this season, and maybe even the Championship, it can be a real lottery at the best of times, these fixtures. Chris, what about you? Are you expecting Sunderland to find a bit of consistency in this upcoming batch of matches, or can you potentially see them struggling just like they have done the last few games?
I think the Ipswich games and the game against Plymouth will be the key for them. If they can win 2 out of those 3, then that's a real big statement, and sort of proves that they can, you know, mix it with the other big boys, as it were, in League One. Obviously, they haven't done up to now, so they've sort of got a point to prove in that respect. I look at the games against Shrewsbury and Morecambe. For me, they should be getting maximum points from those matches. Morecambe concede a lot of goals. Shrewsbury, not the best quality-wise either. And then Cambridge away is actually very tough. They've got a lot of good home results so far this season. Very tough team to beat. Mark Bonner's doing a good job there. So I would say, even if they came away from a draw, it would be, you know, pretty positive. And I don't know if Sunderland fans would see that the same way, but you just have to take into consideration how well Cambridge have started the season. So yeah, really, they just need to be targeting getting some wins against Ipswich and Plymouth, and then obviously Morecambe and Shrewsbury, they should be bangers as well, I would think.
Yeah, soon attentions will turn towards January for Sunderland with, you know, new players no doubt on the agenda with the form they're currently in. I think we know Kirill Louis-Dreyfus, their owner since earlier this year, is quite a wealthy young man, and Johnson could potentially have some transfer funds to see he needs them. Chris, what positions do you think need to be looked at by Johnson to strengthen in this upcoming window from what we've seen so far this season?
It's got to be up front for me, to be honest, mate. Looking at Ross Stewart's obviously leading scorer by quite a fair distance, not like massively, but at the same time he's still the main source of goals, and I think you want to support him by bringing someone in who's probably experienced or even a loanee from, you know, a Premier League side, depending on what sort of player Johnson wants. Because you look at Broadhead, very inexperienced. Aidan O'Brien's not really an out-and-out striker. He's more of a player that you want to play wide anyway on the left. And then obviously Djaku's also a winger as well. So really, you've only got 2 out-and-out striking options. So I feel like they should get one more in. And as we were saying earlier, I think playing 2 up top would really help them, because that way you got 2 players who are going to pin back opposition centre-backs and sort of keep them occupied. And that makes the space for McGeady, Embleton and Djaku. You know, it gives them a lot more space to operate, and also gives them a different option when teams choose to sit deep and restrict the space in behind. And then one other area I'd say is centre-half. If they get an injury there at the moment, I'm not sure the likes of Alves and Doyle would be able to cope, you know, playing alongside each other. Obviously, they got Wright and Flanagan, but if one or 2 of them got injured, I'd really worry for them. So I think maybe looking to get an experienced option in there would work out for them, definitely.
Yeah, like you said, just experience, it could be needed. Ned, is that what you think Sunderland need? You know, I think they do have experienced players right now, you know, Corey Evans, Aidan McGeady, Alex Pritchard, but you know, on the spin of it, they do have a lot of younger players as well that Chris has just rattled off. So they're kind of players who might need more guidance on the pitch, especially in a tough run like this, mightn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I, heaven forbid, if I had control of the Sunderland transfer budget in January, I think I'd be pushing for a real sort of quality, experienced League One centre back to sort of partner Callum Doyle or as part of a back 3. And then, as you said, someone just to support Ross Stewart up top. I really like Nathan Broadhead. I think he looks a quality player, but you know, you can't rely on the Everton loanee, I don't think. So I think it's someone to provide Stuart with a bit more support, and as you say, perhaps, you know, a bit of leadership at the back and some more leadership at the front, really, because, you know, there's no denying there's quality players in that Sunderland team, but at the moment they need someone to, you know, drag them out of this slump. And as Chris said, you know, another injury at the back, and then you're looking at a really inexperienced sort of centre-back partnership. But I think Callum Doyle, were he playing next to a quality League One defender, could be, you know, that could be a really strong partnership.
Yeah, it certainly could be an interesting January. Get a prediction from both of you on the topic of this debate. We've got a comment from David Jones. He thinks it's been a long, hard season already, and it's set to continue that way. Apparently, they look knackered already, and I assume from the last few results, you know, they've been quite heavy defeats. It's not hard to hide the disappointment from Sunderland fans. So finally, I guess I'll need a prediction from both of you on this topic. Chris, does Lee Johnson get Sunderland promoted this season?
Yes, I think he will. I kind of feel like this ownership will give him a bit more time than the previous owners that they've had. And I think January will be his saving grace, to be honest. And certainly he bought himself some time last season winning the Papa John's. But yeah, I'm going to back him on this one. I think he will do it.
Interesting. And Ned, same for you, promotion or not this season for Sunderland under Johnson?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Chris, actually. I think sort of, you know, it sounds a bit weird, but I think League One so often it is about timing your form right, and perhaps there's an argument to be made that like a slump in form now is probably the perfect time to have it. You know, it is, if anything, Lee Johnson might get more money to spend in January, and then we could see them really, you know, kick on in that second half of the season, and as Blackpool did last season, you know, I do think that they do have so much quality, and with a little bit more in January, he'll have enough to get them promoted.
Very interesting indeed. Now, good stuff. That wraps up our latest debate show. Thanks, Ned and Chris, for joining me. Next up on FLW TV at 3 p.m. is the Fulham top 5 strikers fan debate, and at 4 p.m. we'll have the London Roundup show. If you support a London club, you will not want to miss that. And then I am back at 5:30 for the Hull City top 5 strikers debate. So until then, we will see you later.